One silly conversation with ChatGPT may represent a huge amount of wasted water. Wouldn't you like to be more efficient in your day-to-day work? Imagine being able to double your productivity and reduce working hours by using advanced tools to help you with your most repetitive tasks. Not only that, these tools can also save you from wasting time reading large volumes of information to find an answer. How about personalized education accessible to more people? These are some of the promises behind the use of chatbots such as ChatGPT, but a lot of people still don't know today that these come with a potentially high price in water consumption and CO2 release to the atmosphere. Hi, this is Climate Resilience with Cynthia, and together we'll explore evidence-based information to face climate change. Although what I'm about to say is not the main point here in this video, I think it is important to acknowledge the fact that these systems do hallucinate or lie when replying to us, and this is because their priority is to create a response and not to be reliable. The most advanced versions of these systems, such as GPT-01, have shown in tests that they do try to deceive the user, and when questioned about it, they lie about doing so. Back to the point, let's start by analyzing how these tools require both energy and water. Large language models, or LLMs for short, which form the basis of advanced chatbots, rely on powerful AI accelerators for efficient training and inference. NVIDIA GPUs are some of the most widely used. These accelerators work together in large-scale data centers. This is why several of the estimates on energy consumption are based on these chips. That's the case of this estimated energy consumption for 2024, which, by the way, has not been confirmed yet. It was based on a sales forecast, assuming all NVIDIA chips expected to be sold would run at 75% of their capacity. To give this data some context, the energy consumption was compared against the power used by 1 million US households, or the whole power used by some small countries in 2021. Energy consumption is worrisome because not enough green energy is being generated in the world yet. And that means, depending on where the data center is located, that generating the energy required by these systems leads to the release of greenhouse gases. To make things worse, nowadays when you perform a simple Google search, it generally uses AI as well. This is one of the articles that tries to make an estimate on energy consumption when using ChatGPT type tools. According to their data, every time you search in Google and it shows you a summary made with artificial intelligence, 10 times more energy is consumed compared to what was documented in 2009. Something important to consider is that all chatbot systems first need to digest huge amounts of information. This is called the training phase. This training phase is required every time there is a version upgrade. Here you can notice the estimated energy and amount of CO2 that was released when training GPT-2, GPT-3, and GPT-4. You can also see how many more hours are needed in each case. During this training phase, these systems do not produce results for us, the users, but they do consume resources. Some estimates suggest that the consumed energy and released CO2 when training GPT-3 is approximately equivalent to driving 123 gasoline-powered cars for 1 year. After training comes the inference phase, which is when we, the users, interact with the system to obtain something from it. Despite the fact that training is very costly in terms of energy, training happens only once per version, whereas using an AI model continues to consume energy over time. This means that most of the energy used for AI will eventually come from inference. It also means that the energy requirements for running AI models will have a significant impact on the overall energy use for AI systems. On the other hand, among the various applications of artificial intelligence models, particularly in inference tasks, image generation stands out as one of the most energy-intensive processes. Some estimates suggest that generating one image can consume as much energy as a full charge of your smartphone. Others suggest that producing 1000 images with Stable Diffusion XL releases as much CO2 as driving above 6.5 kilometers in an average car. More recent estimates based on GPT-4 suggest that the LLM consumes the equivalent of 14 LED light bulbs for 1 hour to write a 100-word email. And if 1 out of 10 working Americans requested this task weekly for a year, it would equal the electricity consumed by all DC households for 20 days. At the beginning of this video, I talked about water consumption, but what does water have to do with anything here? Modern computing devices, including your personal computer, rely on semiconductor materials. These devices generate heat during operation, especially when performing intensive tasks such as rendering complex video game graphics. To manage this heat, computers use cooling systems, often including fans. You may have noticed that when your computer is working harder, these fans spin faster, resulting in increased noise. This is because generating complex graphics or calculations requires significant processing power, which increases electricity consumption and produces heat as a byproduct. If this heat is not properly dissipated, it could cause the temperature of the components to rise. Semiconductors, which are essential for processing, must operate within a specific temperature range to function correctly. Therefore, fans work harder. In the case of data centers behind the bots like ChatGPT, instead of giant fans, they have cooling systems that use industrial amounts of water. Microsoft, for example, revealed that its global water consumption soared by 34% from 2021 to 2022. This sharp increase represents the water of more than 2,500 Olympic swimming pools and is linked to the development of AI and its cooperation with OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT. On the other hand, Google recorded a 20% increase in water consumption over the same period. This is also largely attributable to artificial intelligence. To give you more concrete examples, this preprint estimates how many questions you can ask ChatGPT before it consumes half a liter of water in its cooling system to answer you. If you're in Texas, half a liter of water is consumed with 36 questions. If you are in Ireland, it takes about 70 questions. And at the other extreme, if you live in Washington, the state, it would take only 10 questions. Updated estimates based on GPT-4 suggest that it requires more than half a liter to write a 100 email, and of course, the regular usage of this system multiplies this amount. For example, if 1 out of 10 working Americans requested this task weekly for a year, it would equal the water consumed by all Rhode Island households in a day and a half. And do you remember the training phase? These other comparisons are meant to give you a more concrete idea of how much water was used by Microsoft and Meta while training GPT-3 and Llama 3. Water scarcity in the world is already an issue that should keep us busy in its solution. These tools, like any other, have advantages if we know how to use them, but we need to be aware that everything comes with a cost. Goofing around with ChatGPT or idly generating images releases CO2 into the atmosphere, worsening climate change, and contributes to worsen water scarcity for everyone in the planet. Having said that, in this channel we try to focus on how to improve our chances in the face of climate change. Do we have any even slight alternatives here? From the user point of view, I see 3 paths we can follow. Number 1, limiting unnecessary interactions seems to be the most reasonable answer. Only use chatbots when truly needed, avoiding frivolous or repetitive queries that consume energy without providing significant value. I know this point is debatable. For example, in this article, scientists compared the environmental impacts of using LLMs to create a 500-word page versus the environmental impact associated with the equivalent time that a human would need. These are the ratios they calculated considering humans based in the US or human based in India versus different types of LLMs. These numbers were crunched under several assumptions which I won't question here. But maybe my personal take here is kind of silly, but for me, it is not like the humans will disappear while the LLM is doing their job. The humans, those tested LLMs substitute, still exist, still consume water and release CO2. So I am personally not that convinced that the use of LLMs represent a real saving, except for the fact that whoever needed those 500 words written would pay far less by using the LLM instead of a human. But that would take us to a totally different conversation. Number 2, avoid the use of AI AI summaries. Search engines now use AI constantly, even when you are not expecting them to do so. But at least on Google, there are some ways to avoid this. This image is a summary Google presented me to answer my question: how many minutes are needed to prepare green tea? Here are 3 ways to prevent this AI summary. Alternative 1. Write -AI at the search bar. Alternative 2. This is analog to what you do when you're searching an image. You just click on the web tab. Alternative 3. Use a proxy site such as udm14.com. When you use it, you will notice that it still searches on Google, but it adds a small code after the search automatically. Number 3. Societal pressure may be helpful to encourage companies and research labs to publish the carbon footprints of their AI models. In the future, perhaps consumers could even use this information to choose a greener chatbot. Never underestimate our collective power. Harness your social networks to spread awareness and share this crucial information. Advocate for responsible use of these technologies and demand that companies take necessary steps to reduce energy and water consumption. By uniting our voices, we can drive significant change and create a lasting impact. Subscribe to the channel and share our content. You can also support the creation of climate-resilient content with small donations to our Patreon account. Thank you very much.